In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the tech zone.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Paul Amadeus Lane. This is the Tech Zone. And I'm so happy you decided to stay with me during this segment of the show. There's a lot of things going on in the news cycle. This person, that person. But there's something in the news cycle that gets touched on from time to time, which I think should be touched on more often than not. I'm talking about the trade war that could possibly be looming between the United States and China. Now, for some of you out there who are political, no matter what side of the aisle that you are on, you have some pretty strong beliefs when it comes to a possible trade war. But before you throw your support behind any possible trade decision, find out the facts first. See how it's going to affect you. And not only your pocketbooks, but your everyday life. Just do that. Do that. And then make an informed decision on how you feel about possible tariffs on China. What I wanted to do is bring someone on who knows a lot more about it than me. I am so happy to have this young lady with me. I know I was trying to get her on back in February and April, but we can get our stuff together because of the snow and everything. But I'm glad you can go outside now. Samara, how are you, my dear?
I'm very well, but it's too hot now.
I know, isn't it? I know. I was talking to my friend Tony, who I interviewed right before you, and he's from New York too. He's like, "Man, I'm about to go outside with my shorts on and get some ice cream." So that's how it is, and I'm so happy to have her right now. The digital manager of Black Enterprise, Samara Lynn. What's going on?
Nothing much.
You know what? I'm
happy to be here.
Hey, I'm happy to have you on because I remember you and I, we communicate back and forth, social media, text sometime. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about you because there's something going on. Right now we know what's really consuming the news media right now. But yeah, who is, right? A little stormy weather, right? But
right.
There's something that I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to that can have a tremendous impact on not only the products that we purchase, but also the tech industry in particular when it comes to the proposed tariff that President Trump looks like maybe want to get into this trade war with China. And Samara, I wanted to have you on because you know a lot more about the analytical impact that this can have on the tech industry. So what do you think what's going on and the impact if they do raise these tariffs? What do you think is gonna happen?
Well, I mean, I know a little bit about it, but I mean, it's mostly like an economic issue, right? But there have been some technology analysts who've been wondering about the impact as far as Silicon Valley and innovation. And, the first thing I wanted to find out was why is he doing this? Why is the president going after China? Is there really this trade imbalance where he's insisting we have all these tariffs? And from my research, what I see from PolitiFact and Washington Post, there's a trade imbalance, but it's not quite as cut and dried or so one-sided as President Trump, surprisingly, is overblowing it and making it out to be. So, so he threatened, I think it was a 60 million or 60 billion, 60 million tariffs. And then China said, well, we're going to retaliate. Then I think it went to 100 million. And China said they were going to retaliate. So this could have some impact. There's a lot of factors with this, especially on the price of, electronic goods, all our toys that we like.
Yeah, and
we could see an increase in price in that if this thing comes to fruition.
And you're spot on because, I knew something was afoot when you have the Consumer Technology Association sent out an email saying contact Washington about the proposed tariffs and how many hundred thousands of jobs can be affected. Because normally when there is a Republican in office, the Consumer Technology Association, they really don't buck the system when there's a Republican in office, because Republicans are supposed to be pro-business. So they really kind of, I don't want to say fall in line, but they really don't criticize as much. But to have them come out with that strong call to action, that's when I knew something was up. Because let's face it, cell phones right now, iPhone about $800 or $900, Galaxy $800 or $900. Slap those tariffs on there, that iPhone or that Samsung will cost you maybe $3,000 or $4,000, and then guess what? We can't afford it anymore. Right.
And also, from what I was reading too, there's not that huge. There's some trade one side in this, but it's not that huge. When you take into like goods, from what I was reading, there is this larger imbalance because we get more from China than we send. But when you look at services, we're still making out like bandits over there. And I think as far as like consulting and all these other specialized services, it's definitely in our favor. And I mean, China is like our third largest import-export partner. So I mean, it's not like we're really getting hurt with our trade relationship with them. And I really, honestly, I think a lot of people are baffled as to why Trump is going after China so much. I mean, some people think it's just kind of feeding that red meat to his base. They just want to see him as somebody who rattles the saber.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point, because remember, he said President Xi was a good guy. Remember, they're good friends. They talk about this. And I kind of agree with you about the red meat, because it's okay to say, I was on the campaign trail, I was in the moment, I thought it was like this, but when I finally got into office with the advisors and all the people from the tech industry, when I really sat down and looked at it, it really wasn't that bad. So I'm going to shift focus a little bit, but he kind of reminds me of, that relative or maybe that person that we know. When they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it, no matter if they get bankrupt, no matter if they mess up a relationship, no matter if they get kicked out of school. They're going to do it because they feel they have to keep their word. But it's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with saying, my bad, I made a mistake.
Right. No, I mean, it's absolutely a sign of, you really have to question someone's sanity. They say you're doing the same thing over and over again. It's like a measure of insanity, and you keep getting the same results. I mean, there's from what I read from The Economist, and it's really an economic issue, there is no reason to impose these tariffs. And yes, it could stymie innovation. And yes, it could see us paying a lot more prices for electronic consumer goods. I mean, right now, it's not just like, so Foxconn makes the iPhone, right? I mean, well, let me back up, Paul, because there is one legitimate concern that I think Trump is exploiting. And that is this notion of China stealing intellectual property and kind of turning it into their own benefit. And also, we saw it. I don't know. Do you watch Silicon Valley?
Yeah, sure do. Yes.
So on the show, the running gag the last couple of episodes has been their Asian landlord who kicked out Ehrlich when Ehrlich went to Tibet or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's from China. So what he does is he takes all of these Silicon Valley companies' secrets and he sells them to China on the black market so they can copy the same technology. And there's always been talk that that's what China does. They make replica of American innovation. I don't know, recently Foxconn, the maker of iPhone, I think they just purchased Belkin. Belkin & Lynx is one of the largest wireless, consumer, networking companies, in the country. So they're just like, when they can't scale, they're just like, okay, well, we'll buy. So now, there is some issue with China as far as competition, but this tariffs, that's not the way to deal with that.
And, you bring up a very good point as far as, like stealing innovation. That's just what countries do. If we look at rock and roll was stolen from the African-American community. You look at a lot of things, and it's just, you can't keep your eye on everything. You got kind of got to do your best to manage the situation. But not go overboard to cut off your nose to spite your face. And that brings up to another interesting topic too. You and I talked about this after our CES visit, and that's when Huawei kind of talked about the partnership they were going to have with AT&T was called off. And if you notice, some of the I want to say the advertisement and everything that Huawei has done in the United States have basically stalled and came to a stop.
Right.
And then late last night, across the wire, we get this news story that the Pentagon is now banning the sale of Huawei phones and also ZTE on military bases now. Now they're saying it's because of concern for security. Are they this concerned over Russian hacking, or do you think this is just a play?
Well, I think it's both. I think there has always been some talk and in the cybersecurity community about compromised Huawei networking devices within the government networks being used to cyber spy on the U.S. government. So there is some concern. Whether that extends to Huawei phones and ZTE, I haven't heard that. But I do think you're right. I think that kind of plays into this whole narrative the Trump administration is forming of making China this huge economic spying monster, when you're right, we have other concerns, that are maybe just as or more pressing. So I think it is both. If I was in charge of a government network or even a private network, quite honestly, I would be hesitant to use Huawei equipment after some of the findings from several years ago. I don't know what the current consensus is in the cybersecurity community, but I have not heard anything about as far as their phones.
Yeah, me too. Because I used to have a Huawei phone before I went back to the Samsung phone, and that's just security in general when it comes to connected device, anything connected. We're gonna have some definitely concern. But I thought it was kind of odd because right now over in China, negotiators over there with China talking about the tariffs and trying to. I know the president talked about trying to make a good deal with the negotiators over there, but for them to kind of slap the biggest wireless carrier over there, I'm trying to see, is that kind of like their way of saying, hey, we're gonna play hardball with you. But one thing about China that I think I've heard some experts say about this, but others kind of downplayed it, about the bonds that they hold here in this country. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's not that much." Blah blah. What is your take on that? Do you think if they call those bonds, we can have some problems? Not problems tomorrow, but problems.
Problems. I think from everything that I think that the U.S. economy and the Chinese economy are just so intertwined and so in some ways dependent on one another that I don't think either one can screw over the other that badly without severe repercussions on both sides. This is from stuff that I've read from Paul Krugman in the New York Times and a couple of other economists. I think there's a good natural balance of power between the two economies that, will withstand whatever kind of machinations the Trump administration is trying to do. So yes, I know people say we owe them a lot of debt, and they can just pretty much buy and sell America. But from what I've read, I don't think it's that extreme.
Gotcha. So a little bit of hyperbole on both sides.
I think so.
Definitely.
I mean, it's just absolutely strong economy. I think it's besides us, I think it's the largest economy in the world. We're the two largest economies now. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. And a lot of American companies are branding. A lot of athletes are branding over there now.
Oh yeah.
A lot of movies.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, you're right.
There's dangers with the Chinese economy. I was just reading today on the train. They're always were the place to go for cheap production, right? But now their production costs are skyrocketing above their, outweighing the productivity. So China soon is going to become such a big economy. It's not going to be the place to go, the, bargain basement place to go for production, which a lot of American companies do. They do their production over there because it's cheap. But that might not be the case going forward, a number of years.
And that's true. And if that happens tomorrow, what do you think the next bargain basement is going to be? Central America? Do you think it's going to be? Yeah,
I think emerging. I think you're looking at some African nations, maybe still in India, maybe parts of Southeast Asia. So definitely emerging economies.
So what do you think about the innovation scorecards out there with different countries getting scored? I was looking at a report the other day. And how they measure the innovation scorecard. They want to make sure that there's diversity, want to make sure that there's women in the workplace, want to make sure that that ones are not being child labor or things like that. Well, what do you think? What do you think about scoring countries like that in an innovation scorecard? You think that's counterproductive, or do you think that's kind of adversarial, especially if a country doesn't get a good grade?
I mean, I think insight is always good. I mean, I haven't seen those scorecards in particular, but I think we ask Silicon Valley, at Black Enterprise, we work with a lot of the leaders Black leaders who we've demanded, what are the diversity stats at Apple, at Google, at Facebook. So I mean, as far as our personal position, insight is always good. Is it something that's going to make companies really do the right thing and promote diversity and promote women? And I don't know. I mean, I think on a lot of those scorecards, we would just fail ourselves, because we're so lacking in diversity in the technology sector.
That's true. That's true. A lot of things we got to work on. And I'm glad you and I had this chat because, the news cycle is being consumed with a lot of things, but this tariff right here really, really, really concerns me, really scares me. That if
it
they
just
get
doesn't
into a
make any
trade war.
sense. It doesn't seem to make any sense.
Yeah. And it's all right to say I was wrong. As I looked at the data, we can tweak a few things, but it's nothing wrong with that. Maybe I know I'm not gonna say that, I might get in trouble. But but hopefully we'll see something break, especially when it comes to trade war. And I want to personally give you your props because you are very active on Twitter, and you're really I want to say an advocate for people getting treated right. And you did something a few weeks ago. There was a story about a gentleman. He posted, a young guy, talked about him being accepted into Harvard Law School. And everybody was giving him his props, saying congratulations. Even we didn't know him, but we felt, we kind of celebrated with him.
Right.
But then there was one congressional candidate.
Yes, I remember. Yep.
Hicksville, USA. Mm-hmm. And he made a derogatory remark about him. Mm-hmm. And I saw everybody come together, black, white, purple, green, to put that guy in his place. And I want to thank you because you reached out to the young man and you said you wanted to do a story on him. And tell me, what made you come to his defense?
Well, we had this has a lot to do with our education editor, Robin Whitegood's coverage. She had covered a week ago the young man who had got accepted into, I think, like over 80 Ivy League schools or prestigious schools. And I think the Fox News host had made a derogatory comment about that, called him obnoxious or something. So we were already kind of angry about that. So now you have this young man on Twitter who's just so beaming, so happy, so proud that he got into Harvard, and just seems so sweet and so happy. And to have this older, supposed, politician who was supposed to be in the Board of Education say, well, did you get in because of effort or merit or something to that effect? That was just beyond the pale. So we had to definitely step in, and we had to, get his contact information. He gave us a wonderful review that Robin wrote, and we were just thrilled to have had the chance to cover him.
Well, I appreciate you coming to his defense because, as you and I are we're not in the twilights of our careers yet. We're still young, pretty young at heart. Yeah. But as we're getting into the mature stages of our career, it's good for us to always come to the defense of those out there who are being bullied and cyberbullied. And you do an awesome job keeping people in check. And
Thank you,
so
Paul.
how can ones find out about the great writings? Because you don't write as much as you used to, but when you do write, it's on point. So how can they find you on Black Enterprise?
Well, thank you. Well, at blackenterprise.com for all the great writers. And, you can always just Google Samara Lynn, Black Enterprise. You'll see my author page. And I always usually promote my writing on Twitter. So my Twitter handle is just my first name, last name. So.
Yeah, and sometimes you get a treat out there when you follow Samara. You get to see her awesome dog, Ninja Poo. Ninja. Yes, yeah, her dog is awesome. And just the way you care for your dog and then care for your family, it's truly amazing. You can teach a lot of the millennials on how to be responsible and everything. And you're just a really, I want to say, shining star out there when it comes to media. Show the young ones how to do it.
Well, thank you. And they can show me a couple of tricks too,
There you go. Yeah,
especially about promotion.
absolutely. Absolutely. But great always talking to you, my friend. Look forward to chatting with you.
Super.
And you take care of yourself.
You too. Thank you.
Once again, a huge shout out to my great friend, Samara Lynn, digital manager over there at Black Enterprise. Black Enterprise is an amazing publication. Make sure you follow them. Some really encouraging and inspirational writings there when it comes to technology, entertainment, you name it. You will not be disappointed. All right. When we get back, all you gamers out there, ready for some Kratos news? You ready for that? Well, stay tuned. We'll be right back here with more Tech Zone.
In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the Tech Zone.